You are about to enter a very strange world. A world of alleged spooks and spies, of conspiracies and covert operations, of illicit transmissions across the globe, to secret agents on undercover operations. What I'm about to show you is at the very least curious and possibly very scary indeed.
Zero Dark Radio.
We are on the phone right now with Jim. He is the operator of InfamousFanClub, which is the popular YouTube channel that has nearly 1 million views at the time. It's an up-and-coming YouTube channel. We're very lucky to have him on the phone. Jim films UFOs with next-generation film equipment, so this is going to be a very interesting conversation. Jim, thank you for joining us today.
Hey Joe, it's great to be here. I really appreciate you having me.
Yeah, absolutely. How's the weather in Southern California?
It's pretty nice. It's sunny and warm and clearing up. How about up there in San Francisco?
It's same here, man. It's absolutely beautiful. We just got over a heat wave, but everything's cool here. But real quick, man, right off the bat, how long have you been interested in UFOs?
Well, I've been interested in UFOs since a kid, and I just recently began filming UFOs about 3 years ago.
So when was the first UFO you caught on film?
The first UFO I caught on film was, 3 years ago, just about 3 years ago, July 2013, and it was right in my backyard in my apartment, strangely after a UFO summoning event in Los Angeles.
That's crazy. So what made you decide to start up the YouTube channel dedicated to UFO research? Had you had a lot of UFO sightings before then, or did this event spark you wanting to start up the YouTube channel?
Yeah, good question. So yeah, this first sighting in July then brought on a wave of UFO sightings after that, and so I gradually started recording a lot more activity, and then just started up the channel to share videos and start documenting some of these experiences.
So how long had you been interested in UFOs? So like since a kid, had you been talking about it, or was this something that you had recently opened your mind to?
Good question. So I had been interested in UFOs from a very, very early age, into middle school and high school, and I grew up reading all of the Whitley Strieber books, Communion, but it wasn't until a couple years ago that I really took that interest into reality and started having those kinds of connections, and I really attribute that to meeting Robert Bingham, learning about UFO summoning, and then kind of just opening up my mind to what was possible in terms of that phenomenon.
That's absolutely awesome. So tell us about the equipment that you use and why you use the equipment you use. I understand a lot of it has to do with infrared and all that stuff. So why do you use the specific camera equipment that you're using to film UFOs?
Great question. So I started out just filming with normal camcorders and Canon DSLRs, just shooting in visible light, and most of the UFO sightings I have been visible to the naked eye. Most of them are pretty low orbit, some 100 to 300 feet off the ground. And then as I evolved, I started seeing some of these other UFO videographers, such as UFO Lou, Pedro Vila, and Slinkers in Canada shooting in infrared. And I started realizing that there's all kinds of phenomenon and objects that you just can't see with your naked eye, but that the infrared cameras were picking up. So I kind of evolved my recording process, turned one of my Canon cameras into a full spectrum camera, which means you can record the entire spectrum of light depending on which lens or filter you use. So yeah, moving into infrared recording brought on a whole new knowledge of the phenomenon. There's a lot more around us than we can see, and with the right instruments, you can document a lot of it.
And I mean, I'm sorry to say this. A lot of the stuff Robert Bingham has been putting up lately, it's not up to standards. But the things you are filming, man, they are clearly in flight. They're making impossible maneuvers. You have filmed some absolutely breathtaking aerial performances of UFOs in action. And I remember a year ago when I first saw it, I was absolutely blown away with the stuff you were catching on film. And I'm so excited to be able to show the people here today that are going to be listening. I'm sure I'll be having slides for the people to be watching. So tell us, what's the coolest thing you've caught on film in your opinion? What's the coolest story you have in all of your experience doing this?
Well, I've got one really great story of a paranormal encounter when I was in high school of missing time. That's my most extreme kind of UFO. I don't want to call it an abduction, more of an experience. I didn't document that. So I have a missing time episode as a child, and then or teenager, and then I have a piece of footage of what I believe is a flying humanoid. And we're about to release that video next week. I posted some of the raw footage a couple years ago, and we just recently reanalyzed it, and I'm quite excited about this footage in particular.
So what do you think UFOs are? Do you think that they're physically piloted? Do you think that they're part of an alternate dimension? What do you believe is going on? I mean, you have compelled. Honestly, man, I'm gonna say this straight up. You have gathered some of the most compelling evidence I've ever witnessed. I would be glad. I'm sure it would stand up in a courtroom that that's UFOs. You know, I mean, you have filmed some spectacular stuff. So, what do you believe that they are? You know, with all your experience with this.
Well, thank you for the compliments on the footage, and I really appreciate that. And much respect to all the editors that work with me on those videos. Nick Dang and Louis Richards at 17th Street. Back to the UFOs, it's an ongoing process. I've only documented a certain kind of UFO. I mean, I really see spears of light, and that seem to be kind of plasma-based energy. So I really have never seen a machine-type UFO, and I don't have any footage of extraterrestrials in a kind of traditional UFO sense. So my thoughts are more that it is something that may be natural to our environment. If you look at kind of Jacques Vallée or Terence McKenna, they have some really deep theories on UFOs being more of a force or kind of a school to help humans evolve. So that's one theory I really find interesting. But besides that, honestly, I'm just studying them, and I'm trying to learn and observe as much as I can. And the most kind of UFOs I see are orbs, and that's really been my experience.
Do you think that the U.S. government is involved in an elaborate cover-up regarding UFOs?
Well, I wouldn't want to speak too far on that behalf because I'm just not as well studied as I'd like, but I do follow Dr. Stephen Greer's research, and yeah, he certainly makes a big case for that, and I wouldn't expect them to be much farther along in terms of these technologies than we're led to believe.
So I've noticed, you know, in your videos, you are a very spiritual person. You're aware of the power of the human mind and the power it holds. Do you believe there's a deeper connection to UFOs that relates to the human subconscious, or are they simply observing us?
That's a great question. That's a deep question for sure. Well, I think that there is something related to consciousness for sure, and I do think they're observing us. But I think that something is changing in our environment. It seems something is making it easier for our intentions to affect our reality. And so, yeah, in some ways I sort of think that as you interact with them, it kind of brings them into reality as if though engaging them makes them real. And the more you start looking into this phenomenon, the more you see it around you. So are thoughts manifesting these creations? Is this kind of a mass vision we're all creating, or are these intelligent beings observing us? All I know is that it's certainly connected to thought, and the more I study that phenomenon, the farther I get understanding UFOs.
Have you ever captured a military craft interacting or attempting to intercept a UFO, or ever seen that, maybe not caught it on film? Have you ever witnessed anything like that?
I haven't witnessed anything like that. When we get a lot of UFO activity in Newport or Costa Mesa, like a bunch of orbs showing up, we will see helicopters coming to check out the scene. And certainly in the UFO summoning events in Los Angeles, there'll be 50 to 100 people there recording these orbs over the city, and LAPD will generally fly over and check it out. But that's the extent of that.
So, wow, that's pretty crazy. So you've been to a lot of summoning events. I'm assuming. Have you come to the conclusion or witnessed different crafts appear for these different people that are summoners? Like, do you believe that these people are coming in with these different spiritual craft that have to do with these different humans? Like, for example, when you go to a different summoner, do different types of craft appear for each person?
That's a great question. Yes, I think that when big groups of people get together and do summoning or CE5, it produces a different kind of manifestation than when you're alone most times. At least that has been my experience. In terms of UFOs and their different manifestation depending on who is summoning, you do see some variability between the captures, but you also see a lot of strange connections. For instance, Jonathan Castro in Los Angeles, Franny Hudson over in the UK, a lot of these guys will film the same looking object overseas, and so it's an interesting puzzle to consider.
So, I'm really glad you brought up CE5 and Stephen Greer. Do you follow the CE5 protocols when you're filming UFOs?
Well, I have studied all the CE5 protocols, and I really appreciate Dr. Greer's approach to making contact and the meditative process. But I'm still very much a student of Robert Bingham's, and he taught me UFO summoning a couple years ago firsthand, and so that is really how I learned how to make contact. And I think Robert's technique for summoning is very simple, which has allowed it to grow so fast. But yeah, I think CE5 summoning are one and the same in terms of the technique to make contact, and I don't want to get caught up in semantics. I think both are fantastic tools for making contact.
Yes, absolutely. UFO summoning is a 100% real thing. I'm glad it's getting the exposure that it deserves in this day and age, and I'm excited to see where it goes. And, people like you, man, people have been whining for years. Why don't people get all this next generation camera equipment? We're in the 21st century now. Why don't they start taking pictures of UFOs? You are doing that. And you're capturing, yeah, absolutely. No, thank you, man. And you're doing some real powerful work. It really does take my breath away. Thank God for people like you, man. There's very few channels out there. Like, you named them off the top of your head. UFO Lou, there's you, InfamousFanClub. I can't even think of really any others off the top of my head, but you guys are doing excellent work. Keep up the great work, my good friend. Do you believe that you live in a UFO hotspot, though? Or is this just something that you are personally encountering?
Well, Southern California is a UFO hotspot for sure. It never really rains here. It's always sunny, so it's perfect for sky watching. Although I do think the phenomenon can be repeated anywhere you live. My younger brother, for instance, George, he lives in upstate New York, and he learned how to summon. He does all this summoning at nighttime in upstate New York, and he sees just as much as I do. So to me, that started to show that, you really can generate this activity wherever you live.
So, I mean, for the most part, do you film these craft from your backyard, or do you go to summoning events, or is all of this filmed over time and you just gather this evidence and post it all up on YouTube, basically? Or is this, for the most part, filmed from your backyard using CE5 protocols and the ones Robert taught you?
Right, a good question. Most of it is filmed from my balcony in Newport. I do go to the summoning events with Robert Bingham and some of the other guys in Los Angeles. But yeah, 90% of the footage is from my balcony in Newport.
So you do believe that you're interacting subconsciously with them. That would basically prove the point. I mean, you can do it from your backyard. You could travel to Tibet and see these things, correct?
I believe that is true. Once you develop it, the relationship, yes, I believe you can do it anywhere.
So tell me, man, do you know any of the local UFO history out there in Costa Mesa? Are there any cool stories? Was there any major sightings? Maybe any craft landings 20, 30 years ago you know of? What's going on with the history where you are?
For sure. Well, Southern California has a rich UFO history, obviously. Maybe not Newport Beach or Costa Mesa in particular, but, San Diego is where George Adamski is from, and certainly out in the desert, Georgia and Tassel at Big Rock. I mean, these are some of the most iconic UFO spots in the 50s and 60s that kind of set the precedence for today. And I think some of those experiences were just so groundbreaking and so different from the sightings today that they're just fascinating to study.
Do you believe that we, the American people, are ready for disclosure? Like, if tomorrow the U.S. government were to say UFOs are real, which apparently is what most people want, they won't take our word for it. They won't take the evidence for what it's worth. Apparently, what needs to happen is the U.S. government needs to come out and say UFOs are real. Do you think we're ready for that?
That's a great question. I do think people are ready for that, and certainly the rate at which media is being produced on the subject, people are getting much more comfortable with the topic. But I don't think, as many others have pointed out, that disclosure is going to come from the government. I think it will come from an individual level, and the more people that start seeing UFOs, practicing the protocols, that really moves the needle, more so than waiting for someone to claim to tell us what it is. Now, that would be nice. But I also think the UFO phenomenon is so deep and probably so strange. I wonder if the powers that be even understand all of it themselves.
Oh, I highly doubt that. And it's crazy. There's been a little bit of disclosure. Since I wrote these questions out, there has been disclosure. NASA came out, was it this morning, saying they found that Earth 2.0, they're calling it?
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know if you heard that. I'm sure you'll see it on the news tonight. There's been 2 major UFO announcements this week. It's crazy that mainstream media is paying serious attention to this. Keep up the great work, though, man. I'm sure you are about to catch on fire here. You're about to break 1 million views. Congratulations. Keep up the great work. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. And I'd love to have you on again soon. Have a great evening, Jim, and thank you again for joining us.
Thanks, Joe. I really appreciate it, and good luck to you with your show. And I hope to come back in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And have a great evening. We'll keep in touch, buddy.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.